1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, nah, nah. See, I've been thinking about you all day, just waiting for your call. Don't even really know what to say. Why I have to fall so hard, it's like I scraped my face right across the ground. So happy to be feeling this way. Guess you really turned me out, it's true. So into you. Ain't nothing for you I wouldn't do. And that's why I promise all this tender loving is yours. I'll always hold you down. You're my everything, I swear I'm all yours. I'll always hold you down. Never let another take your place. Of this you can be sure. I bet these women try it all day, but I feel so secure, so doesn't matter what they say. I'll stand by your side, talking to my dying day. Just a few lifetimes with you, it's my point of view. I wanna make you feel the same way I do.
Welcome to the 21st Annual Sentinel Awards on behalf of Hollywood Health and Society, a program of the USC Annenberg Norman Lear Center. To open our show, please welcome a very special guest.
Good evening. My name is Rosa Dolores Alberio Marcano, but you may know me better as Rita Moreno, and I am delighted to welcome you to the 21st Annual Sentinel Awards. Tonight, we celebrate some of the best, bravest, most challenging entertainment of the past year. How amazing that in the worst year of our collective lives, so much memorable, informative, and powerful television was actually produced. I know how thrilling it is to be a part of this event because in 2018 and 2019, my wonderful series, One Day at a Time, took home Sentinel Awards, which made us so proud. You might know, you might not, that I'm an EGOT, which simply means I've been honored with an Emmy, well, 2, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. Not bad for a Puerto Rican girl who just wanted to go for it. But this show is so meaningful that I want to add Sentinel honors to the list, which turns my EGOT into a SHEGOT. And what's SHEGOT? Hey, look at me. A few months shy of 90, and well, she got it all. Yes, I am 89 years old, and I'm thrilled to be working, and I'm here to admit to the world that I've got a crush on an older man.
hostess, any. And I want to toast my good fortune.
And now, tonight's hosts, dear, dear friends of mine, and they really are, because they are two of the most talented writer-producers in this business, and they gave me one of the best jobs of my career. 4 seasons on their revival of One Day at a Time. So, with the dignity that this occasion deserves, let me bring them out. Hey, you guys! Please welcome Gloria Calderón Kellett and Mike Royce.
Thank you, Rita. Can you believe that we got to work with that powerhouse every day for 4 years and we got paid?
You got paid. Okay. Interesting. I have some calls to make. But, I can't believe we're actually doing this. It's an honor to host the 2021 Sentinel Awards.
It really is. When I was a girl, I used to watch TV with my family and imagine that I was hosting a TV show right there in my home.
And here we are years later, hosting a TV show right here in, admittedly, your backyard, but it's fine. Yeah. It's great. Yeah. Right, some sirens that whatever. When I heard Norman that wanted Mike and Gloria to host, I figured he meant these two. That's of course Mike and Gloria Stivic, as played by Rob Reiner and Sally Struthers, and All in the Family.
50 years after its debut on CBS, All in the Family is still a perfect example of how television can make audiences laugh, cry, and learn without ever being preachy.
Norman's unforgettable shows were built around multi-dimensional characters facing realistic, often controversial situations. That's what we all try to do. But 50 years ago, it changed everything.
Yes. Thanks to Norman Lear, the revolution was televised. And for 21 years, the Sentinel Awards has honored shows that push boundaries and inspire debate.
Tonight, we honor a dozen of the best television episodes from the 2020-2021 season in a year when we desperately needed them. Tonight is a celebration, and we hope you'll post online. Please use hashtag Sentinel Awards on Facebook, Twitter, Insta, TikTok,
all the things. There's many things. We're too old.
Yes,
we don't know all the things, but there's hashtag.
Just hashtag them.
Now, to start things off from the Norman Lear Center, please welcome Marty Kaplan.
Thank you, Mike and Gloria. We're thrilled to have you hosting tonight. And speaking of thrilling, Norman Lear and Rita Moreno. Wow. If Norman Lear at 99 and Rita Moreno at 89 are what 99 and 89 are, well then, as they say in the movie, I'll have what they're having. I'm Marty Kaplan. I'm the director of the Norman Lear Center, have been since its outset in the year 2000. The Lear Center, you can see it there behind me, is part of the Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. And what we're about is stories, about the power of stories, about the power and responsibility of storytellers. We study the difference that stories make. We study their impact on who we are and who we want to be. That impact is especially powerful when it comes to life and death issues, like our health and well-being, like the health and well-being of our body politic, our democracy, like the health of our planet and its future. And on those issues, we try to help screenwriters when they tell stories about them so that they can be accurate. The Lear Center has a program focused on those issues, and it's called Hollywood Health and Society. We work with screenwriters to provide accurate information so that the stories they tell, the impact they have on their audiences is responsible and makes the world a better place. Hollywood Health and Society gives out the Sentinel Award for exemplary stories that are both accurate and entertaining. The program is directed by my colleague, Kate Folb. I can't imagine a more terrific partner to do this important work, and I'm delighted to pass the baton to her.
Thank you, Marty. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I have the best job in the world. Hollywood Health and Society is here to help TV screenwriters and producers to find the most accurate and up-to-date information on health, science, safety, and security for their storylines. We can connect you to experts working on almost any issue, from COVID-19 and the vaccine, to aging and caregiving, maternal and reproductive health, addiction and mental health, national security, climate change, and so much more. Our services are free, and that's thanks to the generosity of people and organizations like the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the SCAN Foundation, the California Healthcare Foundation, the CDC, N-Square, Open Society Foundations, the John Pritzker Family Foundation, and others. So give us a call, drop us an email. We're ready to help. Now, in terms of the Sentinel Awards, I wanted to share a little bit about the process and how it works. So we received this year over 150 entries covering a wide variety of health and safety topics. First, the submissions were evaluated for their eligibility, and then they went on to be reviewed for accuracy by panels of health and scientific experts. Those with the highest accuracy scores move on to be judged for entertainment value by a panel of industry professionals. And that's how we wound up with tonight's winners. Of course, none of this would be possible without the tireless work of the Hollywood Health and Society team. Armane Koroyan, Russ DeVita, Roberta Kruger, Lekha Gopal, and Quinn Lee. Thank you all so much for your hard work. So congratulations to all the honorees, and let's get on with the show. Mike, Gloria?
Take the youthful innocence of the title character in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the dark Freudian nightmare that is Norman Bates in Bates Motel, put them together, and you either got an actor of outstanding range or someone terrifying who you should really distance yourself from. Fortunately, we bring you the former. On The Good Doctor, he plays a gifted physician who is on the autism spectrum. Please welcome the award-winning actor, Freddie Highmore.
2020 was filled with many challenges for all of us. When back at work on The Good Doctor, one of the questions the writers faced was how best to tell stories set in a hospital in the middle of an international pandemic, knowing full well that our audience was more than likely exhausted and burnt out on this very issue. Thankfully, we had David Shaw and Liz Friedman at the helm for the first 2 episodes of season 4. They focused on the tremendous toll that COVID-19 took on the personal and professional lives of healthcare workers, crafting a beautiful story that not only served our characters, but more importantly, paid tribute to the real-life healthcare professionals who have put their lives at risk every single day in order to keep all of us safe during this time. Let's take a look. It is my great honor to present the 2021 Sentinel Award to Frontline Parts 1 and 2 of The Good Doctor, co-written by David Shaw and Liz Friedman.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. It is a great honor. It's a great honor. It's a great honor to have my show, have my name, have anything close to the name Norman Lear. And so thank you. We are very proud of this episode. Speaking on behalf of so many people, Liz Friedman and myself started working on this a year and a half ago. Could imagine we'd still be in this same situation now. But it is, in these situations, you thank your crew, and rightly. And the crews work so hard, and they always work so hard, but there's particularly something either ironic or poignant or some other adjective applicable here, where you're doing an episode about the world dealing with COVID-19, and your crew is literally dealing with COVID-19 as you're doing it. The disease made it so much more difficult to do their jobs, and they did their jobs. And I am grateful to every one of our crew. It is a testament to them that we did this episodes, that we did this season. So thank you to all of them. Thank you to everybody associated with the show. I am very grateful to all of you. And I'm grateful for this award, particularly because it gives me an opportunity to say thank you to the Sentinel Awards and to USC Annenberg, because boy, we need you people right now. We need what you are doing right now. As I said, we started working this a year and a half ago. Who could have imagined we'd still be dealing with this? Thank you for trying to make the world a healthier place. I believe you are, and I believe you will continue to be. Thank you for this award.
I want to thank Hollywood Health and Society for their recognition of these episodes, which were incredibly personal and a real labor of love for David Shore and I. It was important as the COVID crisis was going on to pay tribute to the admirable work and sacrifices of healthcare workers, frontline medical workers. And also thank you to Hollywood Health and Society and the Norman Lear Association for helping us get our facts right on this, because TV is a powerful medium. We can entertain and inform, and it's important to get the right information out there. And I'm thrilled that we were able to do that.
Reproductive freedom, the desire to be a single mother, the difficulties of contraception faced by a 37-year-old woman, the pain and vulnerability faced during IVF shots, hormone treatments and invasive procedures, not to mention the special prejudices faced by a lesbian looking to give birth without a man at her side. Maternity, contraception, the vulnerability of gynecological exams. The journey was handled with power and great skill by the Netflix series Master of None. The creative team includes co-creator, director, writer, and star Aziz Ansari, and co-EP writer and star Lena Waithe. Season 3's Moments in Love starred the great Naomi Aki, known for her great work on Doctor Who, Small Axe, and Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. In this episode, she balances a tightrope between deep vulnerability and strength. And the honesty in her portrayal is mesmerizing. Let's take a look at Alicia facing one of the many potential obstacles on her journey. For its depiction of Alicia's journey of maternal health, in the hope that it will help and educate other women with reproductive challenges, we're so pleased to present the 2021 Sentinel Award to Master of None and the episode Moments in Love, Chapter 4. To accept, we're thrilled to welcome the two brilliant artists who made this episode possible, Lena Waithe, followed by Aziz Ansari.
Thank you so much, Sentinel Awards, for honoring us at Master of None, Season 3, Moments of Love, for our outstanding depiction of a maternal healthcare storyline. It means a lot to us. We put a lot into this episode. We wanted to make sure it was authentic, that it felt as human, as vulnerable, as honest as possible. Thank you for seeing us, because we wanted this work to make sure so many people did not feel invisible. Thank you.
Hello. Wow, thank you so much for this honor. I was very excited when I got the message that we were being awarded this for our episode on Master None. Our whole team, when we approached this episode, we had such respect for the journey of IVF, and we really wanted to get it right. I think the first people we should thank is all the people that spoke with us about their own journeys of going through IVF and sharing those stories and helping us really make sure that we were doing a good job telling the story. And that includes, you know, people that were patients that went through it, doctors, nurses, and I think without them, we couldn't have done this. I also think all our actors that we had in this episode, particularly, of course, Naomi Aki, who played Alicia, just did such a wonderful job and you know, really came through in a way that really blew me away. And yeah, so thank you to the Norman Lear Center for recognizing our episode, and I hope everyone has a good evening.
Thank you, Lena and Aziz. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that makes the next episode we're honoring even more special.
To tell us more, she's an award-winning actor, a singer who made it on to American Idol's Final 8, always kept it real on MTV's Faking It, and starred in Freeform's hit The Bold Type. Please welcome Katie Stevens.
For several seasons on The Bold Type, my character, Jane Sloan, has been living with the knowledge that she has the same BRCA gene mutation that her late mother had. And in the 4th season, Jane takes an important step when she makes the decision to have preventative surgery and undergoes a double mastectomy. As an actress, this storyline was one of the most powerful subjects I've dealt with. Part of that stems from something very personal to me. My husband lost his mother to breast cancer when he was only 15. And in a way, telling Jane's story was a way to honor her and help bring knowledge and awareness to not only our audience, but to myself. And in September 2019, the same time we filmed the 4th season, I was making sure to actively perform self-breast exams weekly. And during one of those exams, I discovered a lump. And following that, I sought medical advice. And thankfully, the lump ended up being benign, but my doctor suggested a biopsy to make certain and to give me peace of mind that the lump would never turn into cancer. I never would have found it had I not been doing weekly self-breast exams, and I owe that awareness to playing Jane and having a knowledge of the signs and risks of breast cancer. In crafting this story arc, the writers shined a light on something many women are too frightened to face. The facts are that 1 in 8 women in the US will be diagnosed with breast cancer. And for women who have the BRCA gene mutation, the risk of developing breast cancer is 6 times higher than that of someone who doesn't. In the episode, The Truth Will Set You Free, Jane, post-mastectomy, struggles to come to terms with her new body and experiences a myriad of feelings. But her outlook shifts when she receives a visit from her father. Take a look. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to present the 2021 Sentinel Award to The Bold Type. Please welcome our showrunner, Wendy Stryker-Hauser.
As some of you know, we wrapped the Bold Type series this past June. 5 seasons, over 50 episodes. And on day 1, Sarah Watson, the creator of the show, said she wanted Jane to test positive for BRCA1 mutation. Yes, this was a show about 20-something women chasing their dreams at one of the most glamorous publications in the world. But this was also a show about real women with real issues. And we went there every time. In Jane's case, she lost her mom to breast cancer at a young age, and taking the test to find out if she had the same mutation was one of the scariest moments of her life. Many shows would stop there, but in our show, she tested positive, which meant we got to tell an incredible story about the fear that comes with having the BRCA mutation, the honesty that comes with determining the path forward, the strength to implement it, and the journey afterwards. We always consulted with doctors and experts, as well as women who had been through a similar journey. And ultimately, we did what we always did and asked ourselves, what would this character do? And in Jane's case, she made the bold choice to have a double mastectomy, which is something we had never seen a 20-something woman go through on television. And we didn't stop there. We followed Jane on her emotional journey post-reconstructive surgery, relief, empowerment, a new pair of amazing breasts, but also the reality that they didn't feel like hers, not yet anyway. And so we explored that journey for her as well. This show holds a very special place in my heart. It has inspired people from all ages, races, and sexual orientations to trust themselves, lean on others, and stand up for what feels right. Thank you, Sentinel Awards and Norman Lear, for recognizing this beautiful gem of a show that always pushed boundaries. I am so proud to be standing here today and to be accepting this award on behalf of the heart and soul of our creator, writers, crew, cast, and executives. Never stop advocating for yourself and others. Thank you.
My name is Charity. I am 31 years old and I live in Washington, D.C. For fun, I like to do stand-up comedy.
Welcoming to the stage.
Around September of 2012, I felt a lump in my breast. I went to a doctor and they figured that I was young and I should just probably keep an eye on it. If it got worse, come back. Gradually over time, it was progressively getting worse. And about 3 days into being in the hospital, the cancer had eaten through my breast. I really didn't have time to sit and think about what was going on, what was going to happen. I went through total 8 rounds of chemotherapy, double mastectomy, non-skin sparing, and then I went through 33 rounds of radiation. I decided to get genetic testing and counseling, and I tested positive for the BRCA2 mutation. I'm predisposed to breast cancer, ovarian cancer, skin, pancreatic, and stomach cancer, which is scary in its own right. I decided to be proactive in my health. Having BRCA2, made the decision to have both of my ovaries removed. It was a big decision for me to make, single, never had children, and I was in the middle of chemo. After everything was over, it was a real shock to kind of like get back into, normal life and trying to decide what was best for me. Humor is my way of getting through difficult things. Always has been, probably always will be, and I felt like I needed to share that with other people. I felt like I have a story that's not really like anyone else's. I think doing the comedy allows me to tell people that breast cancer just doesn't happen to someone that's 75 years old. You need to take your health seriously. Talk to your doctor. There isn't just one face to breast cancer.
The portrayal of substance abuse and addicts has come a long way since the heavy-handed, message-laden after-school specials of the 1970s. The emotions connected to addiction have been hard to understand and rarely articulated on the screen. But in Euphoria, the candid conversation between Rue, a young addict, and Ali, her weather-worn, sober sponsor, stunningly captures the feelings of loneliness and hopelessness addicts feel in the throes of their disease. In Trouble Don't Always Last, Rue is in a relapse, attempting to convince Ali that she's broken and not worth fixing. Their late-night discussion includes everything from a belief in a higher power, the relentlessness of drug dependency, relapse, resentment, forgiveness, even capitalism and its co-opting of social issues. As Ali explains, Drugs will fundamentally change you, and there's no force stronger on earth than that next fix. And in this scene, we're given a bird's eye view of the endless cycle of self-loathing and using. Take a look. I'm pleased to present the 2021 Sentinel Award to Euphoria. Please welcome creator, writer, director, Sam Levinson.
Thank you very much for this award. It's extremely meaningful to me on many levels. I wrote Trouble Don't Last Always during the pandemic. I guess I was thinking about what it would be like to get clean at this time when everything is through computers and Zooms and sort of sitting face to face with someone else doesn't come as naturally. I think a lot of the questions that Rue asks in this episode I've asked myself. And while I waffle between Ali's perspective and Rue's more somber take at this moment in my life, I choose Ali's. I guess that's because I believe in redemption. I believe in people's capacity to change. And I very much believe in, as Ali says, the poetry. Thank you to Z and Coleman. Endless love to you both. You are brilliant, beautiful souls. I love writing for you. To HBO, Casey, Franny, Kat, thank you for giving me the opportunity to make this show. To Kevin Turin, you are relentless, but without you, I probably wouldn't write a word. And to my wife, Ash, without you, I'd probably be eating pills off the sidewalk and living in a dumpster. So thank you. I love you more every day. And to Norman Lear, happy 100th. You are a North Star. You have inspired us all. My love to you and your entire family. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rue. I'm an addict. And I've been clean for 60 days.
This is Patty, my sponsee. Come meet Patty, my sponsee. Patty, this is Marjorie, Jill, Tammy, Wendy. This is my sponsee, Patty, the woman who I sponsor.
He overdosed on Friday, right in front of the Santos Deli. Police showed up with Narcan and literally brought him back from the dead.
Hey, are you with us?
So you took some licks, but you're gonna bounce back. So get the hell off my lawn.
How much did I have to drink last night?
Oh, you've been on a bender for the last 2 weeks.
I got a hypertensive emergency here. Took meth and opioids and whatever they were laced with.
Nice little drug. You dissolve it in water. It'll make withdrawal symptoms go away immediately. It'll also prevent any drugs from getting me high for 72 hours. Excellent work. Big Pharma has done us all a favor.
You literally saved my life. I love you. I love you too.
She had this stupid surgery, gum grafts of all things, but it hurt a lot, so they gave her Roxy. She's gone now.
She's gone. Oh.
You can't do this by yourself. You need to go somewhere.
I got a problem. Okay?
Do you want to get sober with me?
Yeah. Okay, I'll go.
Hey, I'm Rue. I'm an addict, and I've been clean for 60 days.
Thank you, Sam. When you watched the last episode of the final season of Pose, it was impossible not to respond with a tear or 1,000, while also marveling in the finale's joyous celebration. There has never been a show able to match social revolution and style as did this look into the ballroom culture of the 1980s in Manhattan. Never before has American television looked so honestly at the lives of the LGBTQ community, notably the brave trans women who lived their truth and served as surrogate mothers for children who had been abandoned by their own families. To tell us more, please welcome the actor who plays Ricky on Pose and who currently appears on Broadway in Thoughts of a Colored Man, Dylon Burnside.
In the 1980s, HIV and AIDS decimated a generation. There was fear, not facts. Hysteria, not help. Because most of the cases and deaths affected the LGBTQ+ community, millions looked the other way. Worse, there were those who felt AIDS was some sort of retribution from the Almighty. But that only made our community stronger. We came together to fight for our lives, to comfort those who were sick, to share information, and to be there for the loved ones left behind. In the last season of Pose, Billy Porter's character, Pray Tell, and my character, Ricky, both HIV positive, used their every ounce of strength to fight, not merely for their own lives, but for their community. Pray is one of the first to be a part of the trials of the early treatment drug AZT, and he shares his precious drugs with Ricky to help him fight the virus. Let's take a look. But beyond their journey with HIV, these two characters share a beautiful and loving relationship. It's the first time in primetime television that we saw two Black, queer, HIV-positive men make love. That's the special thing about Pose. It not only created characters we don't often see on television, but also gave them backgrounds and storylines that went beyond their sexual orientation, identity, or diagnosis. It is my honor to present the 2021 Sentinel Award to Pose. To accept, please welcome co-creator, executive producer, co-writer, and director, Stephen Canals.
This is a story about the Black and brown LGBTQ+ community living and dying of HIV/AIDS, struggling with poverty and addiction, and battling economic disparity. Not your typical late night fare, but what an honor it has been to shine a light on our oft-forgotten history. Pose is legacy work, and the cultural significance and contributions of our forebears who in the early days of the HIV/AIDS epidemic, with no resources, no support from the government, and a lack of access to quality medical care, still managed to forge a way out of no way, should not, will not be overlooked. From their stories, we have all learned so much more about love, family, and resilience. And I am so proud that through Pose, I, along with all of my collaborators, centered and highlighted how we collectively fought for our own rights during the height of the AIDS crisis, and how we collectively continue to shift the way that the world sees us. As I said last year when I received this honor, regardless of your status, your life matters. Your story matters. On behalf of my co-writers and creators, Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk, thank you to our entire cast and crew for your tireless efforts. Thank you to our astonishing writers, Janet Mock and Our Lady J. Thank you to my co-conspirators at FX and Disney TV for your support. Thank you to our loyal audience who showed up each and every week to laugh, cry, and throw shade with us. And thank you to the ballroom community for trusting us to tell your story. Finally, thank you, Hollywood Health and Society, for the Sentinel Award. As a writer, producer, and director, I've always believed that TV can indeed be used as an educational tool. With Pose, one of my goals was to contribute to normalizing the lives and stories of those living with HIV. With this honor, you have affirmed that I have accomplished that goal, and I'm humbled. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. That was so powerfully said. We indeed got to be a party to history in the making, and you have really changed television. So much work goes into putting on this celebration. And before we go any further, we want to send a sincere thank you to our friends at Disney, whose generosity has helped bring this film crew to my backyard.
We also want to celebrate some beloved members of the Disney family who are being honored for their innovative episode focusing on children's emotional health. To tell us more, please welcome the executive producer, production designer, and writer behind such series as Codename Kids Next Door, Sheep in the Big City, and Muppet Babies, Tom Warburton.
Hey, it's Mr. Warburton, super executive producer of Disney Junior's Muppet Babies. And I'm really excited and so honored that the Sentinel Awards has chosen Rolf Gets the Blues for this award. We're really proud of this episode because it shows kids that it's okay to talk about when you're feeling sad. Take a look at this clip and see what I'm talking about. Cute, right? Look, there's 11 billion people I want to say thanks to, but I think Rolf would do a way better job in song. So, hit it, Rolf!
Thank you to the Sentinel Awards and the Muppet Babies writing team, especially Robin Brown and Max Beaudry too. And I sure wanna thank the music guys, Andy and Keith. And if I still got time, my friends, I'll shout out to Disney Junior and the Muppet Studio. Thanks to Chris and the design team, Kelsey and Jeremy as well, and to Snowball and to Oddbot, cause they make cartoons swell. Matt Danner, Mr. Warburton too. Think this is a great time to say, hey, thank you to the Sentinel Awards. Bow wow. All right.
Presenter is a multi-award-winning powerhouse. Actor, director, producer, an inductee in the Texas Film Hall of Fame. We love her on Grey's Anatomy. In a century where healthcare remains one of the most stressful subjects in our lives, we all pray for a chief of surgeon as no-nonsense and quick-witted as Dr. Miranda Bailey. Please welcome the woman who has rocked this role since 2005, Chandra Wilson.
You'd think when an amazing television series hits its 18th season that all the brilliant storylines, scenes, and plot ideas would have already been taken. Well, you'd be very wrong. I'm so proud to tell you that at Grey's Anatomy, not only do our writers and producers continue to surprise and engage our audience, they also educate, inform, and enlighten them with fresh stories and current issues. In the episode Fight the Power, my character, Dr. Miranda Bailey, is managing a hospital while dealing with an aging mother with Alzheimer's. And like the real-life families of so many elderly parents, when Dr. Bailey's mother tests positive for COVID-19 in her nursing home, Bailey is faced with watching her mother fade, first from Alzheimer's and then from her physical body. This episode not only resonated with our audience, it also cast a light on how COVID-19 has disproportionately affected Black Americans, older Americans, and people who live in assisted living. In this next scene, my character faces some difficult choices. Take a look. The writer of this episode, Dr. Zoanne Clack, wrote Fight the Power from her firsthand experience caring for her mother who contracted COVID-19 while in a care facility. Fortunately, after a long and hard-fought 7-week battle, her mom is now a COVID survivor. As a daughter of a survivor, Zoanne was inspired to dedicate this episode with names of those whose lives have been lost to the pandemic. Here's what she said. Silence is compliance became a battle call for me. And the framing of this episode was my reaction. It is my small contribution to lives lived full of substance and not being forgotten. It is my great honor to present the Sentinel Award to an amazing executive producer, writer, and physician, Dr. Zoanne Clack.
Thank you, Chandra, for portraying the story with your usual fervor and dedication. You made the words fly off the page, and I appreciate your commitment so much. I can't even begin to show you the intensity of my gratitude. And of course, thanks go out to the crew and everyone who made this episode a reality. I am so proud of the work that Grey's Anatomy did last season, season 17, portraying the COVID crisis. It's incredible to have been on a show for as long as I have and to still be able to speak with conviction about the impact that it is having on the world. A lot of shows shied away from the topic and for completely understandable and reasonable reasons, but I am glad that we tackled it head on. It was a shared experience that we all went through, a time to see what was going on outside of our quarantine lives, a time to share the collective grief of the moment. I think of it as a little time capsule that captures life as we lived it during that time. And it pays homage to the hardworking healthcare workers that were putting their lives on the line every day to help others. This episode, called Fight the Power, was, like Chandra said, inspired by my mom's journey, where she spent 7 weeks in a hospital fighting for her life after getting COVID in an assisted living facility that I had just placed her in just a few months prior to the outbreak. And she actually did say the thing about not being ready to go, and it actually did send me into the same kind of whirlwind as we saw Bailey going through in the episode. The singing came about because as I had learned more about Alzheimer's, I learned that patients often felt comforted by songs from their youth. And I always played these songs for my own mom. But in my case, my mom lived up to her claim that she was not ready to go. And she is still with us. She did not die. But we tailored the story the way we did because many other people did lose family members. And many of those people were people with whom I had close contact. I thought the naming of the names in that New York Times article after we lost the first 100,000 people was so powerful that I always had that as a goal for the end voiceover. The fact that there were not just names dying, that there were people dying, people who loved and were loved, people who had lives and friends and families. So obviously I felt very connected to this episode, and having it win an honor from an organization that I personally love myself and respect for the work that they do, bringing out the truth and good to the masses, is just icing on the cake. Thank you, Hollywood Health and Society, for all that you do and for continuing to fight the power.
Righty, and you're the head of the household.
No. I am. No, I am. This is my mother, Lydia. She lives here too.
Aren't you gonna introduce us?
Richard, this is my mother, Mrs. Fahey.
Oh, nice to meet you, Mrs. Fahey.
Well, it's very nice to meet you too. And please, call me Helen.
If anyone can hear me, I'm being kidnapped.
I can't feed myself. I can't wash myself. I can't even go to the bathroom by myself.
How did they miss this? How would you know? Give yourself a break. When somebody that we love gets sick, very easy to lose sight of the person and see only the disease.
I can do this, Dr. Sharp.
But caregiver burnout can be just as serious as Lena's cancer. Not just for her, but for you.
Karen, I'm glad you're here. I'd like you to meet my new executive assistant, Adele Eisenbaum. Highly skilled and tons of experience.
I'm happy to come aboard.
Great.
Wait a minute. I'm not having a stroke, am I?
No. Am I?
Wait.
Shit. Back. Retreat. Retreat.
Could have gone a whole lot faster, couldn't you?
Maybe. But I'm an 80-year-old woman, and I've earned the right to take my sweet fucking time.
That's my girl.
Australia took over American pop culture through scene-stealing parts in a diverse string of blockbusters, including Star Wars II: Attack of the Clones and Bridesmaids. On TV, she played Gloria Steinem in the FX series Mrs. America and currently stars in Physical on Apple TV+, portraying a woman coping with her mental health. Please welcome Rose Byrne.
On the Apple TV Plus series Physical, I play Sheila Rubin, a 1980s wife and mother who seems to be holding it all together, but who is slowly unraveling. Her demons have her by the throat, but when things turn darkest, she finds salvation in the unlikely world of fitness, specifically the then about to explode world of aerobic exercise. As created by the brilliant Annie Wiseman, the show is dark, funny, painfully honest, visually unique, and utterly addicting. When we first meet Sheila, she is her own worst enemy, egging herself on while making a fried egg sandwich, an oddly perfect metaphor for a woman locked in a cycle of self-help cliches that do nothing more than destroy her self-esteem. But as she finds her path, she emerges on the cutting edge of a then unheard of title, Female Self-Help Guru. Let's get real, let's get into it, let's get our hair down and let it rip. Let's get physical. For her honest, darkly funny creation of a fully dimensional woman who's facing her demons head on and finds a new world, I am thrilled to present the 2021 Sentinel Award to Physical and its brilliant creator, my friend, Annie Wiseman.
So I'm normally a words person, but I came across some numbers from the National Alliance on Mental Illness that really got my attention. They said that the average time between the onset of mental illness symptoms and seeking treatment for them in this country is 11 years. 11 years. Can you imagine waiting 11 years suffering with a broken arm before you get help? So there's really only one reason for this, and that's our culture's stubborn stigma around mental illness. And eating disorders in particular are not only stigmatized, but they're really deeply misunderstood. They're often just depicted in TV and film as a teenage phase, or even as a punchline, usually about a female character who they want to depict as vain or shallow. But the reality is that eating disorders, like so many mental illnesses, are rooted in trauma, and they can persist well into adulthood. They are not restricted to any demographic or gender, and they're also deadly. Eating disorders are second only to opioid overdose as the deadliest of mental illnesses. So that's why I'm so deeply grateful to my partners at Tomorrow Studios and Apple TV for taking on this subject matter with our show Physical, with the gravitas it rarely gets, but really deserves. And especially to our directors and our writers and our star Rose Byrne for really going there with honesty and sensitivity, for not flinching, and for using all the arrows in their storytelling quiver to accurately and empathetically depict the lived experience of struggling with an ED. Our hope with the show is that by telling the truth of one woman's secret inner life with an eating disorder, in contrast with what she projects to the world, that we can generate greater recognition of some of the signs and symptoms of anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder, and other life-threatening EDs, and generate greater empathy and understanding for those who suffer for them in the process. So I know from my own experience with an ED that they really thrive in shame and secrecy. So if we can help anyone out there feel a little less ashamed and alone than I did, then I'm really grateful for that chance. 11 years is too long, and it's often too late. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Annie. People ask me, what's the greatest thing about working with Norman Lear? And the answer is easy. Everything.
Norman has an energy that someone half his age would envy. He's always curious, always looking out for the next generation of creative artists. And he's always fascinating to spend time with. Now, recently we sat down with him in his living room. Pay no attention to the fact that I'm wearing the same exact suit. It's for continuity purposes.
He just has one suit.
It's not that I lack imagination.
One suit.
Just let's
buy another suit.
Fine.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, Norman.
We're very happy to be here. Thank you for having us, Norman.
You're very welcome.
When we look at the shows and storylines we've honored tonight, they cover a broad spectrum of health topics. This seems to perfectly address what the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, one of the Lear Center's funders, calls a culture of health.
Now, Norman, of course, I know what a culture of health is, obviously, but if you could maybe just explain it for others, would be fantastic.
I believe it is envisioning a society where everyone has a fair and just opportunity for health and well-being.
Right. So obviously, Gloria knows what it is. Obviously, I know what it is. But if you could just for other people.
Norman, he doesn't know what it is, obviously. Norman, you have been doing this whole culture of health thing your whole career. So what do you think are the key issues that storytellers need to illuminate right now?
Writing is and producing is a great field for that, but paying attention to the foolishness of the human condition. There isn't any situation in which there isn't a laugh. When Edith died on All in the Family, and Archie came home alone and walked into the bedroom and sat on her side of the bed and touched her pillow, the audience, as uncomfortable and touched as they were, he was glorious, laughed. And I don't begin to know how to explain it, but I knew it would happen. Whether they were reminded of all they'd seen of Archie and Edith, or Edith herself, imagined her in that bed, whatever, but just touching the pillow, they got that laugh.
Norman, so many of tonight's shows are looking at the full prism of healthcare. We need to examine the factors that affect people's access to the care that they need. Factors as basic as where someone lives, their economic situation, age, race, gender, sexual identity.
As we look ahead to today's challenges, I marvel at how many times over the decades your groundbreaking shows were the first to tackle subjects that no one would dare talk about. There are so many examples that 50 years later are still considered revolutionary. On All in the Family, for example, Edith Bunker was the victim of a sexual assault. She had breast cancer. On Maude, the title character had an abortion, a safe and legal abortion, almost 50 years ago. Each of these shows resulted in millions of women speaking out about topics that at best were whispered about at the time, but never truly discussed on TV.
But
Yeah.
the fact is that everybody in America was living on streets where these problems existed, next door or up the street, across the street, or in their own families. There was nothing that we touched that America wasn't living with. So I never understood why you couldn't deal with the subjects that were so familiar and occupied so much of the lives of the people who were going to see it.
Yeah, well, you took all these great things that people were talking about that were very relatable but weren't on television. For example, the Jeffersons showed TV's first aspirational black family, and they also showed TV's first interracial marriage. And Sammy Davis Jr. kissing Archie Bunker made everybody laugh, but also used humor to illuminate a dialogue about racism. And on Good Times, you showed the connection between poverty and high blood pressure in black men.
Other shows of the time were always worried about being safe and not offending the status quo. So how hard was it to change that, to change the status quo, to challenge that?
Well, most of these shows were on CBS, and there was a fellow by the name of Tankersley who was the head of program practices. Program practices was the pseudonym for
censors, right?
Censor.
Yeah.
And we laughed about that. He saw it the same way. he understood that he had to satisfy people who were 19 blocks away in a building where the guy on the first floor was reporting to the guy on the third floor who was reporting to a guy in New York. Very difficult job. So I understood he was dealing with that, and he understood that America was ready for anything and everything we were doing. They were living with it, as I said, up the street, across the street. There was nothing surprising except the fact that a network was putting it on.
Well, Norman, thank you for setting a standard and for leading by example.
And thank you for letting Gloria know what a culture of health is. That's good.
Right, I know.
And thank you both for everything you mean to the industry and to the guild, the Writers Guild that is, and to me personally as friends and collaborators.
Too nice.
Too nice.
Every writer and showrunner working today, and all that hope to have that job, are all the lucky recipients of your wisdom. So, you know, us especially. So thank you, Norman.
You are welcome, sir.
I think our discussion is the perfect segue to honor a show that really epitomized a culture of health.
From New Amsterdam, where he played Dr. Max Goodwin, please welcome actor and USC graduate, go Trojans, the wonderful Ryan Eggold.
What an absolute honor to be introduced by a legend. Thank you, Norman. This has been a tough year for film and television crews across the board. I'm grateful our production team implemented protocols to keep our mental and physical well-being a top priority during the year of COVID. It was anything but easy or convenient for them. Throughout 2020, I realized how lucky I am to work with the incredible individuals who make up our cast and crew, with special thanks to our insightful writers. In the midst of a global pandemic, with facts seeming to evolve minute by minute, they crafted back-to-back episodes covering topics including COVID-19, from misinformation to the arrival of a vaccine, to systemic racism, HIV/AIDS, the pandemic of the 90s, addiction and recovery, mental health, maternal health disparities, and climate change. All while my character asks, how can I help? Our scripts focus on complex problems, with our characters working hard to find and implement innovative but realistic solutions. Take a look at these clips. It is my great privilege to award the 2021 Sentinel Award for imagining a culture of health to New Amsterdam. This is the first time a series has been honored for an entire season, and we are very proud. To accept, please welcome our showrunner, writer, David Schulner, executive producer and director, Peter Horton, and the writing team that created every episode of season 3.
Wow, this is quite an honor. In fact, it's the height of compliment for us. Being not only given this Sentinel Award by the Lear Foundation for not only the best episode, but the best season, is truly the height of compliment for us. And I'll tell you why. Not only is it because it's Norman Lear, who's just a legend in our business and also a shining example of how to live a good life, but because of who we are as a show. And let me just tell you a brief story about that. 5 years ago, David Schulner came to me with, we'd been trying to work together for quite a while, and he said, how about another hospital show? And I said, no thanks, already done it, not interested. And he said, well, read this book called 12 Patients by Eric Mannheimer. And so I read it. And then as we started talking about it, I realized, and well, he was telling me that this was a hospital show where we could really take the hospital genre and talk about any issue that we cared about. We could talk about healthcare. We could talk about gun control. We could talk about systemic racism. We could talk about climate change, anything. And suddenly this became a whole different proposition to me, certainly. And so we've, over the years taken that and put it out there, hoping that someone was listening and someone was actually being affected. And, you know, your tagline with your organization is celebrating television that makes a difference. So to come to us with this award and say, indeed, we think you're making a difference is absolutely the height of compliment for us. So on behalf of everybody, from cast, crew, writers, everybody, just thank you from the bottom of our hearts for this. This means the world to us. Thank you.
Our next celebrated series takes audiences back to the 1960s space race between the USA and the USSR.
Which was so much more entertaining than our current space race between the Tesla guy and the packages guy, the fella, you know.
Yeah.
Our next presenter is a recipient of Best Actor honors from the Guldbagge Awards, nailed the pronunciation.
Nailed it.
The equivalent of an Oscar in Sweden. He's been busy in mega movies, including The Suicide Squad, and hit series, including The Killing and In Treatment, to present this award for their depiction of nuclear threats and the sadly still relevant danger to planetary safety. Please welcome the star of Apple TV's For All Mankind, Joel Kinnaman.
After World War II, for close to half a century, a Cold War raged between the US and the then USSR. It was a global chess match where the two superpowers moved around the board using proxy wars as their game pieces. Ronald D. Moore, Ben Nadivi, and Matt Woolpert brilliantly looked back at those tense years and reinvented them in a fascinating alternate history, which became For All Mankind on Apple TV+. And they also had the great fortune that I accepted to play Ed Baldwin, a NASA astronaut who truly has the right stuff, and who in this alternate history universe works alongside the men and women of NASA, including legendary space explorers John Glenn, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Sally Ride. This past season's brilliantly taught script, our show raised the stakes on nuclear proliferation and the space race. And the result was, in my humble and very unbiased opinion, a mesmerizing and potentially horrifying conflict where one wrong move would result in the end of humankind on Earth, as well as on the lunar surface. So let's take a closer look. For its depiction of an alternate 1980s Cold War that underscored the ever-escalating threat of world powers unwilling to communicate while happily leaving our beloved globe intact, I'm honored to present the 2021 Sentinel Award to For All Mankind, and to accept, please welcome executive producer, co-writer, and series co-creator, Matt Woolpert.
Thank you, Joel. On behalf of Ben and Ron and myself, we're incredibly honored to receive this award. Our show is a true collaboration, so we share this with our incredibly talented crew and cast and everyone at Apple and Sony. This is such a talented group of people we have the honor of working with every day. And we all find it very meaningful to be recognized by a group that is really all about the betterment of society. With For All Mankind, we're always striving to show that even among all of the dangers and divisions in the world, that there are these moments that can inspire us to choose a better, brighter path, and to remind all of us that we're in this together. So we're very honored, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Every so often, a show comes along that's more than a hit. It's a revelation, a cultural touchstone that can't be missed. Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale is that show. In this episode, we see a profound moment in the past of one handmaid, Janine, that occurs in flashback. Its power comes from showing the abuses to women that occurred when they were seemingly free. We're delighted to welcome the actress who plays Janine, Madeline Brewer.
A dark dystopian abyss where women are controlled by fascistic laws that deny them agency over their own bodies. A nightmare where the state decides the extent of a woman's most basic and fundamental personal freedoms. But enough about Texas. I'm here to talk about The Handmaid's Tale. It means so much to me to be here on behalf of the show I have had the honor to work on from its very beginning. When Margaret Atwood's novel first appeared in 1985, it was conceived as an impossibly dark, cautionary tale. All of us on the show are aware of how terrifyingly relevant our show has become. It's a surreal honor that The Handmaid's red garments have become an iconic symbol of pro-choice and reproductive rights marches around the world. In this episode, we see Janine in flashback, a struggling young mother who decides to terminate an unplanned pregnancy. She mistakenly visits a crisis pregnancy center posing as a clinic where she is lied to and emotionally manipulated. Fortunately, Janine finds an actual women's clinic where the lies are replaced with facts. She's treated with compassion and given a prescription for a safe medication abortion. Remarkably, this non-invasive procedure has been both legal and available for more than 20 years and was helpful to women during the pandemic as so many clinics were forced to close during lockdown. And yet it is rarely even discussed on TV. Let's take a closer look. For its clarity in presenting facts and options surrounding abortion care, I am honored to present the 2021 Sentinel Award to The Handmaid's Tale. To accept, please welcome the writer of this powerful episode, my thoughtful and compassionate and brilliant friend, J.C. Heldrick.
Thank you so much, Maddie. I'm so honored to be here accepting this award on behalf of the cast, the crew, and the writers of The Handmaid's Tale. You know, we recognize that with a show like ours that has kind of a cultural life that exists separate from the stories we tell, we have a responsibility to accuracy and to honesty. And it's a responsibility we take very seriously. So this award means so much to us. Thank you to Hollywood Health and Society, not only for this, but for being such an invaluable part of making sure this story was as accurate and true to life as possible. I want to thank our director, Christina Cho, who shot this episode as one of the first productions back up during the pandemic. The incredible Elizabeth Moss, who is just the beating heart of everything we do, and our showrunner, Bruce Miller, who emboldens us to push these stories as far as we possibly can. And I especially want to thank Madeline Brewer, an unbelievably special actress and person who took on the responsibility of being the face of this story with incredible grace, pride, and compassion. And I don't think we'll ever know how many women she's helped to process their own abortion care experiences by being so confident in Janine's decision to terminate in this episode. So the world of The Handmaid's Tale takes place in an alternate America where our democracy has been replaced by a violent, totalitarian Christian theocracy called Gilead that enslaves fertile women and forces them to bear children. And, you know, the bulk of our show follows the women that are forced into that role. But we also tell the story through an ongoing series of flashbacks that zero in on moments that take place just before the rise of Gilead, as that religious ideology takes hold across the country. And as we thought about what an abortion care story might look like in that crucible, what we would need to change or adjust from our own reality to align with the reality of the show, we realized we didn't actually need to invent anything at all. In this episode, Janine, a single mother of a 2-year-old boy, is seeking to terminate a second unwanted pregnancy. And she mistakenly finds herself at a Christian anti-choice establishment where she's barraged with kind of horrifying misinformation about abortion that's designed directly to dissuade her from terminating her pregnancy. And these places exist right now in our reality, and they're called crisis pregnancy centers. And our audience found this narrative deeply unsettling, that someone would use blatant lies and manipulation to coerce a scared young woman into proceeding with something so unwanted. But I didn't have to make up a single line of that dialogue. I just pulled from the real scripts those clinics use. Clinics that across the country right now outnumber abortion care centers 3-1. There was no embellishing, no editing of what that counselor said. It was just what these people say to vulnerable young women every day. And ultimately in our story, Janine perseveres. She knows this is the best choice. She finds a real clinic and she secures herself a medical abortion, which is something a lot of women right now would not have the time to do in our country. And what I learned from writing the story and the conversation surrounding it after it aired is, while we continue to support the effort to protect national and state legislation surrounding a woman's right to bodily autonomy, we can also embrace our ability to reach out to the women that legislation affects, to empower them against this virulent misinformation, to help continue to strip away the shame, the stigma, the duress that those in that anti-choice minority want women to feel. Because we know abortion is safe, it's legal, it's necessary, and we can help drown out those lies. We can tell these stories directly to the women who need to hear them and continue to tell them abortion is not shameful, it is not criminal, and choosing yourself is not something you ever need to explain. So thank you again. That's it. Thank you guys so much.
My name is June Osborne. Mine is just one voice. Countless others remain unheard. Women imprisoned by men who can never be heard again. It is for those women I ask for justice.
Tonight's final honor goes to a series that has proved that even in the era of prestige cable and must-have streamers, with the right show, the networks can still swing for the fences. This Is Us has been a monster hit since it first debuted, and one of the reasons is our next presenter, who stars as Randall Pearson. Please welcome Emmy, Golden Globe, SAG, Image, award-winning actor. We couldn't fit all of them in here. Sterling K. Brown.
2020 was, shall we say, a complicated year. Pandemic, impeachment, floods, fires. Every day seemed to bring another heartache. But for the African American community, there was one date that seared into our hearts and minds above all others. May 25th, 2020. The day when, handcuffed, gasping for air, with a policeman's knee on his windpipe for over 8 minutes and 46 seconds, George Perry Floyd died. Trayvon Martin, Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, and far too many more to list. We've watched as they fell. We listened to the deafening silence that came from those in power. And we rose up, demanding at last that the world realize and acknowledge that indeed, Black Lives Matter. Randall Pearson, the character I play on NBC's This Is Us, deeply loves the white family who adopted him when he was believed to be only 1 day old. But Floyd's death makes Randall look at his life, his family, and into his own soul in a new way. Let's take a look. For looking clearly and honestly into the face of racism, I am honored to present the 2021 Sentinel Award to This Is Us. To accept, please welcome our showrunner, the Hebrew Hammer himself, Mr. Dan Fogelman, with his co-writers on 40 Part 1 and Part 2, Miss Kay, the Nigerian Nightmare Oyegun, and my main man, Mr. Jake Schnessel. Congratulations, guys.
Well, thank you, Sterling, for those lovely words. First things first, on behalf of
every writer everywhere, but especially on behalf of the This Is Us writers, we wanted to wish Mr. Norman Lear a happy 100th birthday. Back in the days when the world allowed humans to gather in person, we were lucky enough to be at this party in person, some of us, and to a person, every This Is Us writer who ever attended. It's a very awkward group of human beings, and they would all awkwardly stalk Mr. Lear and go up to him, and to a person, they would all come back and say how gracious he was and how kind he was. And so we just wanted to say thank you and wish a happy birthday to one of our heroes. We also, of course, wanted to thank the hardworking folks at the USC Norman Lear Center's Hollywood Health and Society program, who have helped us pursue our goal of telling stories based in fact. And through the years on our show, 6 years now, they've set us up with countless experts, from firefighters to experts on transracial adoption and cardiologists. They've always welcomed our requests and bent over backwards for us. And so we wanted to thank you guys for accommodating us. Give a particular shout out and mention to Elliot Sharon and Kate Folb, who have been very helpful in finding the experts for us throughout the years. And of course, Roberta Kruger, who has organized this wonderful event. This year was an unusual time for the This Is Us writers. As we broke our season and wrote our first episode of the season, we were in the height of a lockdown and the murder of George Floyd and the ensuing protests. They kind of opened the floodgates up for us a little bit in our room and our discussions about race. It was an interesting and often loaded time in our writer's room, and there were complicated and complex conversations happening both inside and out between us. Kay, who is here right now with us, and I had many conversations on and off camera. And eventually it led to Kay penning a scene for our first episode where Randall expressed for the first time to his family and to his sister how different his life experience had been. All of it, the pain, the exhaustion, a big complex conversation where I was lucky enough to be on set that day, which is rare for me, but Kay and I were down there. And it was one of those moments on the show where I was watching these two beautiful actors, Sterling K. Brown and Chrissy Metz, read Kay's beautiful words. And I recognized in that moment, it was gonna be a high watermark for our season and for our series. So a thank you to Kay Oyegan, who's on here, Jake Schnessel. This was his first screenplay credit in television that you guys are recognizing. So it makes it extra meaningful for all of us. And thank you again for honoring us this way and for helping us tell our stories. We hope you continue to like it and will continue to help us for one more final season. So thank you.
Thank you. We're just going to hold for the helicopter.
Live television.
It's just about 10 minutes. Some of our presenters and winners tonight had personal messages for Norman. Please take a look.
Hi-ho, Mr. Lear. Mr. Lear, on behalf of the Muppet Babies and all of us at Disney Junior, we just want to say,
Norman Lear, I am so happy to be in your orbit.
Norman Lear, I am such a huge, huge fan.
Norman has been a big part of my life for a very long time.
Norman, I grew up watching your shows.
Mr. Lear, I also grew up watching your shows.
Good Times was one of the, actually, I think it was the first opening jingle that I ever learned.
Mr. Lear was the nicest producer he'd ever met and always came up and said hello to everyone on the crew.
Norman, you are a legend in this business, and you are a shining example of how to live a quality, self-examined, generous life.
And so we just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you for everything that you have done. We would be lost without you. So, and certainly we would have far fewer jokes.
Thanks for making TV and film awesome.
So thank you, and I hope you continue to high step into that 11th decade like I know you will.
Happy 100th year. Given the state of the world, we may need you around for another 100 years.
We wanted to wish Mr. Norman Lear a happy 100th.
Happy 100th year.
Happy 100th year.
Happy 100th year.
And happy 100th year.
Keep crushing it. You're doing well, and if you stick with it, you may just be able to make a career out of this thing. Keep writing.
We love you, Norman. May you keep making the world a better place for another 100,000. I mean, if anyone can do it, it's you.
Let's just keep going.
You keep going.
You're truly the man of the century. Thank you for everything you've done, for inspiring the rest of us to do our best to follow in your example.
That's our show, guys. Thank you to our presenter, our honorees, and special thanks to Rita Moreno and Norman Lear.
Happy 21st Sentinel Awards. We'll see you next year with luck in an actual room filled with people.
If not, just come on over and we'll just do it back here.
Just the backyard.
There's other seats. There's seating. Thanks, guys. Good night.